open. I acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on which we meet and also that form the footprint of our great region. I pay respects to the elders past, present and future and extend congratulations to them on their continued nurturing of their culture. For those who don't recognise the voice, Deputy Mayor Duncan McGuinness speaking here. We have online our Mayor Tom Sharp, who is in the Middle East at the present time with the South East Queensland Mayor's contingent there. Tom, if you'd like to just acknowledge that you are there so we can, Tom, in case there was any hiccups at all, has asked me to chair the meeting. So, Tom, you there?
Good morning all, and thank you, Deputy Mayor and Chair, and I will hand it back to you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Mayor. We have on the line Pastor Dennis Lumley for prayers. Are you there, Pastor?
Yes, I'm here, thank you. Are we ready?
Yep.
So, Father, we just want to thank you for the great place we live in. We just want to now give you praise for the future that's ahead of us. I pray right now that for these people who picked up the responsibility to lead this great land, I pray your blessing, your protection upon them and their marriages, their families. And I pray also that you will give them dreams, visions of what can be in this place. I pray that you will just give them great wisdom and in making the right decisions to make this place even greater and a blessing for many people who live here and those who will come too. So, Lord, lead and guide them through their discussions, I pray, and help them to make really good decisions for the benefit of our future. Lord, and again, I ask your blessing, your protection, your provision upon them all. I ask this in Jesus' name. Thank you, Lord. Amen.
Thanks, Pastor, and appreciate the time. If you want to stay online, you're most welcome to, of course. There are no apologies at the meeting here today. The Mayor is in attendance by our rules, can be part of, any of us can actually phone in, so there's no apologies. Full attendance of councillors and staff here, so welcome everyone there. No public question time, CEO? No, nothing, no questions. Declarations of prescribed or declarable conflict of interest by members.
Thank you, Chair. I've already foreshadowed that I have a prescribed conflict of interest in one of the confidential items, and I'll fully disclose that at the time that item comes up. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Hay. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I also have a declarable conflict of interest in item 11.2, which I'll reveal at the time.
Yep. Thanks to Councillor Chalk. That was 11.2, Councillor Chalk. Yep. Okay, no announcements or mayoral minutes. Reception of deputations by appointment. I don't think on presentation of petitions. There's nothing there. Confirmation of minutes of the last meeting, which have been distributed to everyone. Is there any issue with those minutes? If not, would someone like to move that those minutes are true and correct record?
I'd be happy to do so. I'm happy to move that the minutes of the ordinary meeting held 24th of September 2025 be adopted as true and correct.
Thanks, Councillor Sanders. Someone like to second that? Second to Councillor Chalk. All those in favour? Mayor?
In favour.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, no business arising out of those previous minutes from those minutes or any previous meeting? If there's nothing there. Okay, we go to the consideration of business of the meeting, 11.1. And I would ask Councillor Chalk to introduce this.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Today I'm pleased to introduce report 11.1, which is titled MCU 24/181. It's a development permit for a material change of use to establish a transport depot, maximum 4 heavy vehicles, over the property located at 63 Bunburra Road, Dugandan, and described as Lot 22 SP 336711. I'll take the report as being read. We've been briefed on this before, and I'll move straight to moving the following motion. That 1, Council receive and note the report titled MCU 24/181, development permit for a material change of use to establish a transport depot, maximum 4 heavy vehicles, over the property located at 63 Bunburra Road, Dugandan, and described as Lot 22 SP 336711. 2, Council approve development application MCU 24/181 and grant a development permit for material change of use to establish a transport depot subject to the conditions. And 3, Council note that any subsequent request for negotiated decision, notice and or change application to the approval MCU 24/181, as well as any administrative corrections to the conditions will be progressed via delegated authority where the changes would not significantly alter the original decision. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Chalk. Would someone like to second that motion?
Yes, I'm happy to second.
Second to Councillor Sanders. Would you like to add to that, Councillor Chalk?
Just to say that I believe the development application does meet the planning guidelines. In this case, it's actually accepted development under our planning scheme, and it did trigger overlay, which required the assessment to take place, but that's been taken place and it's been proven to still meet the guidelines of our planning scheme. So I'll probably leave it at that, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Any other speakers, maybe against the resolution or?
Thank you, Chair. I just want to raise the issue for clarification. I just note in the report there are some conditions attached to the report and that the officers state that they can see no reason for the report development not to be accepted subject to reasonable relevant conditions. And I just note in the report it does state that the anticipated hours of operation are from 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. and there is some provision for screening, particularly along the western boundary of Lot 1, which is a neighbouring property. So I asked the question about the hours of operation, given that there was a petition submitted and some local opposition, obviously, to the development due to the effect that it potentially has on the amenity of that location. And I thank the Director of Planning, Development and Environment for his response, but I just want to get some clarity around those things. So there's no provision, or council has no capacity to have input into the operating hours, or whether that screening is actually carried out or is sufficient to protect the sensitive receivers, being the neighbours, or where do we stand on that? Because it just seems like, and whether it's in the planning scheme or not, as it reads at the moment, it's potentially could operate 7 days a week from 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. with the most impact obviously being early. I know it says typically starting at 6:30 a.m, which is still pretty early for people, for the neighbours, but I just want to get some clarity about all of that and what council are and aren't able to enforce, please.
TSEO? Sure.
Through the chair. So as far as the transport depot is concerned, the hours of operation, it's not our view that we can impose conditions as this assessment has been undertaken due to non-compliance with the overlay code, not from assessable development of the transport depot itself. which typically we would seek to impose conditions around this. There's an ongoing responsibility of any development or person on their property to comply with the general environmental duty, which is dealt with under a separate act. So that would remain. But as far as this approval is concerned or the conditions of this, we are not of the belief that that's something we can impose. It's something that if there were complaints, we would look at, say, non-compliance with that general environmental duty, but that's why we haven't taken the extra step to impose that set of conditions as we typically would for accessible development.
Thank you for that. Can I
Yeah,
comment?
yeah, no, yours.
So just for clarification, the wording in the report as presented with reference to the operating hours and the screening, was that put in the report by the applicants or put in the report by council?
So the wording was imposed there by the applicant. That wording's come from them. Yeah.
And finally, if I may, just what options are open to neighbours and other local residents should they find the operations to be overly impactful or detrimental? What options do they have?
Those options would be the same, I suppose, as any next door neighbour. That would be to raise compliance concerns with our team, and they would undertake that assessment and see if there's a nuisance being caused, basically.
Thank you.
Any other questions or speakers against the development? Councillor Hay, whichever one. No, that was a question actually, and that's what I've asked, why I've asked for a speakers against.
In that case, mine's a question as well.
Yeah, you're allowed then.
Thank you. Can we bring up page 14 of the agenda on the screen, please?
Is that the map, Councillor?
Yes, that's it, yep. If we look down near the road, there's that little triangular piece. Yes, that one.
That one?
That's council-owned land. My question through the chair is, what protections are in place, given that that's council-owned land and all that earthworks has already been undertaken? So what protections are there for council's owned property there by way of spillage and I guess silt movement, whatever, from that site? I appreciate that these overlays of maps onto properties from aerial photos are a little bit iffy, but if you look at that line, my understanding is the diagonal one there between the council land and the other property. I believe there wasn't a survey done as part of the development application. So what surety do we have that that clearing hasn't already extended into the council-owned property?
So, yeah, through you, Deputy, to the acting manager.
Through the chair, we have made inquiries about the potential for land encroachment on council's land. At this stage, yet to receive a response from our property team about that encroachment. If there was found to be an encroachment, then it would be up to the applicant to rectify that to make sure that those works are made good, so that no longer exists. So we'll continue to, I suppose, review that as a separate matter.
Just a follow-up question. Given that the earthworks were undertaken without any type of approval and resulted in a show cause notice being issued, which then led to an operational works application which was approved by council, prior to there being any application whatsoever lodged to indicate what the ultimate use was intended to be, what confidence do we have that if there is any remedial work that needs to be done, that will be undertaken, given that a show cause notice was required to get the operational works permit applied for in the first place?
Acting manager.
Through the chair, I suppose the surety would be that we have the processes necessary to make sure that we can undertake further action, and so we would go down those pathways. If rectification wasn't made good, then we would continue to take further legal action.
Just a final question. Is it normal to approve operational works for something that doesn't actually have a development application in play.
Through the chair, being an applicant-driven process, it can sometimes follow a sequence that we would not consider to be standard. It would be, I suppose, the department's preference that MCUs are dealt with prior to operational works, but in this instance, because it is applicant-driven, that's why it's taken that sequence.
Thanks, councillor Hay. Mayor, you would like to comment or question?
Chair, thank you. Just a question and a follow-up question from earlier in terms of the proposed hours of operation that are set out on, I think it's page 15. To ask the planner by the chair, what are the prescribed hours for an operation of this nature under the current planning scheme?
Manager, you heard the question? Yeah.
Through the chair, I'm just going to pull up the General Development Code, just a second. So if the development were made accessible, we do have provisions under the General Development Provisions Code, which talk to hours of operation. Typically they refer to sensitive land uses and the noise generated. So there's provisions from say 7 to 10 and then after 10 p.m. In this instance, it hasn't triggered assessment against those codes based on the reason it was made accessible.
Mayor, you'd like to follow up?
Yeah, I didn't quite, sorry, it didn't come through. I apologise, it didn't come through very clearly. I didn't quite follow that. So there is no prescribed operating hours under the planning scheme for an operation of this nature?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Further questions or speakers against? We've only had questions at this point of time.
I just have a further question. If we're not able to impose conditions relating to the hours of operation, why is it left up to the applicant to determine their own hours of operation, given that it's basically open slather?
Through the chair, these applications and the applicants who make them typically put in, I suppose, standard information to council to leave out potential questions. In this instance, while the applicant may have included their proposed hours of operation, there would be nothing specifically legislating them under the planning scheme to state that they must or may not operate within those hours. I can't talk to why the applicants decided it was important information to include, but obviously their ongoing responsibility will remain regardless of the hours that they've proposed.
Manager, could I just follow up with a question on that? And just for clarity, but you said the 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Could you just go through that in a bit more detail and whether my understanding was that you said that can be changed?
So the 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. refers to a noise standard in our planning scheme, which is a general development provision. So it's imposed on most developments that come in as accessible development against the provisions of the planning scheme, and it talks to acceptable levels of noise to sensitive land uses. In this instance, as I mentioned, because the development was accepted development, it's not actually accessible against those provisions. So that's why this development hasn't been considered against those provisions.
Okay, thank you. I think that adds clarity to it. Yeah. Further questions or speakers against the resolution?
Thank you, Chair. I can't support the motion, given there's no ability to regulate the trading and operating hours. I don't think that the residents on surrounding properties were envisaging that they were going to have a full-on transport depot operating at all hours of the day and night, and I think it's unreasonable for that to be permitted. Thank you.
Thank you. Speakers, a speaker for the resolution? Councillor Sanders.
I'll be supporting this motion today. Reason that this is a rural development. It supports the region. It supports the agricultural industry. I don't think they would have even had to put in an application except that there was overlays on this one, so it would have been acceptable development. I understand that there are people that are moving close. I just believe that we've got to make sure that we support our agricultural services, that our agricultural industries are allowed to operate and flourish, and so therefore I'll be supporting today.
Speaker against the resolution?
Thank you, Chair. I just concur with the comments made by Councillor Hay and the comment made by Councillor Sanders stating people moving into the region. I do have to state that the sensitive receivers already were there first and living in a quiet rural area. I did say I'm quite happy to support the motion if there are restrictions. When I say restrictions, reasonable and relevant conditions with regard to hours of operation and also with regard to protecting the sensitive receivers with screening and appropriate measures to ensure the immediate neighbours and those in close are protected as much as physically possible from the impacts of this development application.
Could I ask the manager, and it's probably been asked in a different way from Councillor Moriarty before, but if we were to move an amendment to this motion that the hours be 7 till 7 or putting a reasonable sort of hours, and I hear what Councillor Moriarty's saying, and this is a rural property and it's zoned rural, so it's, but we have to try to look after other people. Could you, if we were to move an amendment, if someone was to move an amendment here, where would that stand, and is it, are we able to, is it enforceable?
Through the chair, if council wishes to move an amendment to include a noise condition or a time condition, that is possible. It would be very open to challenge based on why it's been made accessible. So it would be an awareness from the council group that it is likely or could be challenged. Imposition of a condition that is lawful does not necessarily remain lawful if by agreement of the applicant as well. So in this instance, it would be, I suppose, a concern, but definitely a possibility.
I have a question, if I may. Just if we did vote this down, my question is, do we have a defendable position when if we ended up having to defend a challenge like this? I just can't see that. I just wonder how much money our learned colleagues have to spend when it comes to court cases, and could we defend it?
I think it's a hypothetical, Councillor.
You want me to give you a hypothetical answer?
Yeah.
Zero
Hypothetically.
chance. This complies with the planning scheme. It's acceptable development. We've got zero chance.
I just wonder, what's the reason for voting? We've got to have a really good, acceptable reason for voting something down. I understand, but if you're going to go to stand up in court, you've got to know exactly where you want to be and how much we're going to spend here. So you're spending ratepayers' money, but okay.
I think you've had your question, Councillor Sanders, and we'll, I think it's getting into the comments there now. Manager, would you like to, comment on that question? I know it is a hypothetical, but
Through the chair, yes, if it went to court, I suppose what council would need to defend is non-compliance with the Agricultural Land Overlay Code. This is where the assessment has originated from. So it would be based around agricultural land, not on noise or other provisions of the transport depot.
Could I just state that, given what the chair has said about the potential for a amended motion to include hours, that may be the way to go, depending on how much the applicant really wants their development approved. Would they perhaps be agreeable to the imposition of limited hours for operation, which is better than an outright refusal in a court case?
Through the chair, I can't talk to whether the applicant would be satisfied with hours of operation. They do have the ability, however, to negotiate conditions once an approval is issued. So there are appeal rights of any applicant that they could undertake if they were not satisfied.
okay. Any other questions, or has anyone would anyone like to move an amendment at all? That's up to the meeting.
Chair,
Yeah.
if I may.
No, yeah, Mayor.
Thank you. I don't quite understand the proposition by Councillor Sanders in that I don't believe there was any suggestion or there wasn't anyone talking against the motion. I do believe and support the point that you raised, Chair, for consideration of amendment to the motion. And I do take on point the planner's comment by negotiated outcome. And if and it would be worthy consideration of operating hours that are acceptable within that community, given the environment of close impact. Acknowledge it as a rural setting. Acknowledge that it is obviously a transport depot that will have support for the rural industry, but at the same time, not necessarily considered a direct rural operation.
Yep. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Oh, would you like to move that amendment, Mayor? And we haven't, no one's actually come up with a time yet at any rate, so, yeah. I did suggest 7 to 7, but it's, yeah. And as the manager rightly points out, that is up for appeal from the operator in Inroad. If he believes he wanted 6, it's sort of, he has it right there.
Clarification, please. So,
Councillor Sanders.
so we've just had advice from our planner that we really don't have a leg to stand on. You know, we can negotiate at a later date. I just don't understand why we'd put up an amendment, why we wouldn't just negotiate at a later, after we had put the motion.
Well, I'd...
Because the motion has, the conditions already set out.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chair.
Yeah, exactly the words I was going to...
In the document.
Yeah. No. CEO.
Sorry, through Deputy Mayor, might just go over to Director. There's a couple of concerns here also in relation to some of the conditions, which I haven't seen any conditions at this point or alternate conditions. Director?
My recommendation would be to defer the matter. We can propose or draft a condition for consideration later in the meeting for this particular item. You need to decide on the decision and the condition as part of the decision process. You can't go and negotiate it after a decision's been made.
You're spot on there, Director, but it's whether we can get it through an amendment, but... Yeah. Is anyone prepared to actually put a resolution that we let it lay on the table from what the CEO said?
You have a motion on the table.
Yeah.
You have a motion on the table at the moment.
Defer it. Yeah.
So the motion would have to be voted on or withdrawn by the mover, and then you can have a motion to defer if that's council's choice.
Councillor Chalk?
No way, because we're not basing anything off planning grounds. We're asking that to put in, this is the rural zone. If this was a farm, we're going to restrict them to 7 to 7. This is a rural zone. People move into rural zones to be around industries like this and farms. Are we protecting the rural zone or are we protecting the residents? And the comments today, our job here is to assess it against the planning scheme, not to just make up our own rules on today. And it's been assessed against the planning scheme and it clearly complies, clearly. Only for an overlay, this wouldn't even have to come here. So we've got zero chance of winning anything. The applicant wouldn't in the right mind accept 7 a.m. start time. Who works a transfer depot from between 7 a.m.? No one works a farm between 7 a.m. Nobody works between 7 a.m. unless you're working in an office somewhere. So I think it's ludicrous. So no, I'm not going to accept any amendments, and it shouldn't be deferred either. This has been long enough. This is easily acceptable against the planning scheme. So it's time for us to do our jobs.
Yep.
Chair, can I just comment, please?
Yep.
With regard to that last comment, it actually says in the report, the applicant themselves says that typically operations will start at 6:30 a.m. in the morning. In the email I sent around to councillors and staff on the weekend, I did suggest an alternative operational time. If typically it's going to be 6:30 a.m, then that would be acceptable. And 7 p.m, 6 p.m, who knows I don't know about the close date, but there's a hell of a difference between 5 a.m, trucks starting up at 5 a.m, and 6:30 a.m. The other matter is the council's responsibility is to make decisions which are in the public interest. I've said previously, I'm actually not against the development, and I accept that it is an accepted use of the land in that zone, but we still have an obligation to ensure that the sensitive receivers are not adversely impacted unduly. They will be regardless, but we should be trying to achieve a reasonable outcome for that location.
Mayor, you'd like to comment?
Yeah, Chair, I again just didn't quite understand Councillor Chalk's comment because no one had ever raised the time of 7 a.m.
Yeah, I did say that time.
Refer back to the.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
my apology.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I'm not.
Just
it wasn't a referral, and I do make and concur with the comment by Councillor Moriarty.
okay. Any other speakers? As Councillor Chalk's indicated, he's not prepared to withdraw the motion. Any other speakers at all? If not, I will put the motion. Sorry? Yeah. Sorry, Councillor Hay.
Thank you, Chair. Just going back to advice received yesterday that whilst this was an acceptable development application and there was no proposal to condition the hours of operation necessarily, it was pointed out that noise concerns are addressed through the Environmental Protection Act 1994 and the use of power tools and regulated devices as part of the operation are restricted to the following hours: between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. on a business day or Saturday, and between 8 a.m. and 7 p.m. on any other day. My argument would be that if the use of power tools, which are nowhere near as noisy usually as 4 trucks, is limited to those hours, I can't see why the operation of the actual trucks would not fall within those hours as well.
Thanks, Councillor Hay. Councillor Chalk has moved on the motion. Would you like to anything to add before we put the motion?
No, I'll stand by my comments earlier. This has been assessed against the planning scheme, which is what we're here to do, and it clearly complies because it's acceptable development. The hours of operation aren't even accessible, so all that talk doesn't mean a lot, and there is regulation that covers different uses there. This is a rural zone, and I feel we need to protect the rural zone for people actually doing rural enterprises. Like I said, if this was a farm, there'd be no way we could be restricting them to these sort of hours. People have got to realise when they buy a property in a rural zone that they come under our rules, not their rules. So I want the motion put, please, and I think we should all vote on it.
Okay. Thanks, Councillor Chalk. Those in favour? Oh, Councillor Cryer, I've asked Councillor Chalk to actually close the debate.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to ask a question. If I
You can ask a question.
in relation to the hours of operation, what is to stop them going 24 hours? Is there any restriction there, or starting before 5 a.m? It's just a question.
To the acting manager.
Through the chair, as I mentioned earlier, it would be up to them to maintain their general environmental duty. Being quite a complex act, there's different components that carry different times and noises, etc. Colloquially, there's nothing to stop them operating, many hours in the day, but there is still an ongoing responsibility to make sure you're not causing nuisance. So that would be how we regulate it.
Thanks, Councillor Cryer. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Mayor?
In favour, Chair.
Division called. Those in favour, the Mayor, councillors from 2, 4, 5 and 6. Against divisions 1 and 3. Thank you. We move on to 11.2. And I'll ask Councillor Moriarty to...
Just before you go,
Yeah.
Mayor, I've got to declare a conflict. I have a declarable conflict of interest in the item 11.2. The conflict arises because a close associate of mine has a working relationship with the applicant, so I've just chosen to leave the room for this item.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Chalk. Councillor Chalk's leaving the room there now. Councillor Moriarty, 11.2.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to introduce item 11.2, RAL 24047, development permit for reconfiguring a lot 1 into 2 lots at 2808 Rosewood Worrell Road, Worrell View, described as lot 13, SP 243709. I apologise for having to turn around. My eyesight's failed me at the crucial time. I've been pretty good up until now. I'll take the report as read, but I am going to put forward for debate, first of all, option, or not for debate, but I am going to move option 2. Please, Sharon, if you could put that up.
Just give me 1 second, I just have to find it.
Sorry, I haven't,
No,
got,
no, you're fine.
I haven't got it in front of me.
Option. There, I've got it. Okay. I'll just, yeah. I'll just pop it down here, councillor, just for now, if it's for debate. No, it's not working. Oh, that's why. So option 2 is
I move that council receive and note the report titled RAL 24047 Development Permit for reconfiguring a lot 1 into 2 lots at 2808 Rosewood Warrelview Road, Warrelview, described as Lot 13, SP 243709. And council defer the decision on this development application RAL 24/047 to allow the preparation of conditions of approval for the stated reasons.
Moving that motion, councillor Moriarty.
I do move that motion.
Someone like to second that?
Second.
Seconded councillor Hay. Discussion on that resolution. Would you like to speak to the resolution?
I would, thank you, Chair. I just note, particularly in light of the decision that was made on 11.1, that I consider the recommendation to be somewhat contradictory to the recommendation in 11.1, being that this, while not directly related, we've just approved a transport depot in a rural zone, and this particular application is simply to cut off a little bit over 3 hectares of land off a larger rural block of land, due to a generally accepted provision that the two blocks of land, or the 2 proposed blocks of land, are actually severed by a road. My understanding is, I had this conversation with a qualified town planner about a different matter not all that long ago, that is a generally accepted provision, that where a rural block is severed by a road, there is provision for those 2 lots to become 2 separate lots rather than 1 lot. So I'll just run through very quickly, if I may, the comments by the applicant. First of all, that in terms of potential rural activities, the grazing of livestock and animal keeping are considered the highest and best use for the land. That is what proposal 40 is within. Sorry, I apologise. The proposed boundary follows a road alignment, which is a logical solution to the fragmentation caused by the road. I agree with this comment. It is common practice, as I just said, and we do have a report from Norris Clark O'Brien that was submitted with the application. They are town planning consultants who advise that the proposal is compliant with all the relevant Scenic Rim Planning Scheme 2020 provisions and is consistent with the development in the immediate and surrounding areas and the general locality. The proposed development should be considered suitable for this area. I also note that the new access to the proposed Lot 13, which would be the new lot created, is directly onto the State Road, Rosewood Warrelview Road, so there are no issues with access being necessary to the local road or cost to council in upgrading that road or anything along those lines. The proposed lots are not out of character for this locality. They are similar to and compatible with others in the location, and some lots are actually sited there which are smaller and under the guidelines as it is. The proposed lot, the new lot 13, contains suitable building areas should a house be required for future. The road and topography of the land abutting the road prevents the 2 parcels from being used productively as a single holding. The SEQ Regional Plan in 2023 acknowledges the impact roads can have on rural lands and provides exemptions for subdivisions of this nature. Creating 2 lots is a logical solution to the fragmentation caused by the alignment of the road in this particular situation. There is some discussion about safety implications, which I don't think are overly relevant at this stage. Some of the reasons given is that for council for refusing that the proposed development cannot support meaningful agricultural activity, but I would argue that the higher and better use of this particular block of land would be as a rural residential lifestyle block rather than a very small part of a much larger agricultural block, which is cut in half, or not cut in half, but is severed by the road. Another case put forward by council for refusing the development is the proposed development does not protect rural and natural landscape qualities. Well, given that we've just improved a transport depot in a rural zone, I don't think that argument stacks up in this particular case in any way, shape or form. Council have also said a proliferation of undersized lots could gradually shift towards a more rural residential feel, conflicting with the traditional rural character of the area. I don't consider the creation of one smaller lot a proliferation of undersized lots in any way, shape or form. We're just creating one small rural residential, potentially rural residential style allotment, which would be a higher and better use than the current use as rural land. Council state that the resulting fragmentation depends significantly on the type of road involved, and they state that the local road that severs the land doesn't carry much traffic, so therefore it's not as significant. I don't see that being any particular reason for refusing the application. I don't think the safety or use of the road will change significantly if the application is approved. The creation of a lot less than 40 hectares does not support the ongoing increased agricultural productivity of the land. I would argue that keeping that 3-point-whatever hectares in a 90-hectare lot as part of that land is going to significantly increase the agricultural productivity of the land either. Although the western portion of the site is not mapped within the agricultural land overlay, this does not diminish the potential use for rural use. And that the presence for surrounding lots below the 40-hectare minimum lot size does not justify further fragmentation, but it also does not justify refusing this application, in my opinion. So, given the advice given and the report from the town planning experts, Norris, Clark, O'Brien, and the fact I can see no reason for council to refuse this application, no logical reason anyway. Thank you.
But for clarity, you're moving that it actually is deferred, not that it be approved.
That's the option on the table.
That's right.
Thank you.
Yeah, just for clarity. Anyone else like to speak either way? I will just say, given that it's only 5 minutes away from my property, when there's a outlook up there that counts all actually bought the road quite a few years ago, but not scores of years ago, and that's the only access is people going up to look at the lookout, and I agree with a lot of the points you've made. It's actually has. It's not an agricultural block, that block that's left there, and it is separated, and it's very difficult to make use of it the way it is, that's for sure. Okay, Councillor Hay, you can have a question.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just refer back to the report submitted by Norris, Clark, O'Brien, and the application was made for reconfiguring one lot into 2 lots, and they've stipulated that has been created by an exempt subdivision. So through the chair and the officer, could I ask for an explanation of what they consider to be an exempt subdivision and whether this application actually qualifies as an exempt subdivision, please?
Through the chair. So an exempt subdivision refers to the planning regulation. So under the planning regulation, when you're in the particular precinct that this land is, typically making a subdivision application of less than 100 hectares per lot would mean that it's prohibited development. So that actually restricts the applicant from even making an application to council. In this instance, there are a few requirements that you can meet that allow you to make a subdivision application outside of that. And one of those is a division of 1 into 2 lots. If the lot is severed by a road that was gazetted before the 2nd of March 2006 or a state controlled road, and the road forms the whole of the boundary between the lots. In this instance, because it does form the whole of the boundary and was severed by a road that was gazetted before March 2006, they were able to make an application to council. The level of assessment is indicative of the planning scheme, so that's why it's triggered impact assessment in this instance.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah, thank you for that information. I neglected to note also that the application is impact accessible, and it is, there were absolutely no submissions and no objections raised, so, yep.
Okay, thanks.
Just one.
Councillor Moriarty, Councillor Sanders.
Just one thing, I'm happy to support the motion as it is if you wish, but I just will read out, the proposed development does not comply with the requirements of the planning scheme, considered to raise significant issues on the subject proposal fragmentation of land and reduced agricultural capacity. Okay, we're going to discuss that. So I guess once we defer it, will we just have further discussions on what other options we've got for this land and what could be suitable? Thank you.
That would be the go, yep. Okay, if there's no more discussion on this, I'll put the, sorry? Oh, Mayor, did you want to comment on this at all in any form?
No, thank you, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Hay?
I'd just like to make one observation. The comment was made that approving this one small lot could lead to a proliferation of undersized lots. May I suggest that every time we approve a subdivision application with hundreds of lots, where quite a lot of them don't meet the minimum lot size or the average lot size, we are causing the proliferation of undersized lots ourselves. This is one lot with maybe one house on it. It is not as bad as what we're facing with the subdivisions that we're being bombarded with at the moment.
But how do they compare? No, I won't. As chair, it's tempting as chair to jump in. Thanks, Councillor Hay. We'll put the Councillor Moriarty's motion. All those in favour? Mayor? In favour? Thank you. It's carried, and we'll get Councillor Chalk back in before the next item.
You'll have to show Councillor Chalk the decision.
Yep. Councillor Chalk, we unanimous for those who are left in the room. Move that council receive and note the report titled RAL 24047 Development Permit for Reconfiguring a Lot 1 into 2 lots at 2808 at Rosewood Worrell View Road. You did add that, Sharon, that's good to see it wasn't in somewhere else. Described as Lot 13 SP 243709 and to council defer the decision of development application RAL 24047 to allow preparation of conditions of approval for the stated reasons. Okay, so I'll now call on Councillor Cryer to introduce 11.3.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to introduce item 11.3 MCU 23/103 development permit for warehouse, self-storage facility / storage yard. 38 Queen Street, Harrisville.
Yeah, just if you can hold it a minute, Councillor Cryer. We might have been in an AI breakfast this morning, but I don't think it's going to help us.
It's Halloween.
Let's switch that off.
Would you like me to?
No, just help. Okay. Like everything else, turn it off and turn it on again, and it works. Sorry.
I'll just reread since we had multiple echoes. I would like to introduce item 11.3 MCU 23/103, development permit for warehouse, self-storage facility / storage yard, 38 Queen Street, Harrisville, Lot 1, RP 113052. I take the report as read, and I would like to move the alternate motion that 1. Council receive and note the report titled MCU 23/103, development permit for warehouse, self-storage facility / storage yard, 38 Queen Street, Harrisville, Lot 1, RP 113052, and 2. Council refused development application MCU 23/103 for the reasons as outlined in this report and as stated below. A, the proposed development conflicts with the following provisions of the Scenic Rim Planning Scheme 2020 as amended 30 June 2023. 1, overall outcomes, 2A, development, 2C, character, and 2D, built form of the Township Zone Code. 2, performance outcomes, PO1, PO2, PO3, and PO7 of the Township Zone Code. Table point 6.2.19.3.2. B, the non-compliance with the above provisions does not resolve a conflict between benchmarks within the Township Zone Code, and C, compliance cannot be achieved by imposing development conditions.
Thanks, Councillor Cora. Would someone like to second that motion? I think Councillor Hay got a hand up first there. Second, Councillor Hay. Would you like to speak to your... Councillor Cora? Yeah. Yeah, Councillor Cora, speak. I'm just a bit slower. Councillor Cora, if you would speak to...
Yes, thank you, Chair. I would like to speak to the motion. Council is requested to consider a development permit for material change of use for a warehouse self-storage yard in the main street of Harrisville, which falls within the township zone. Their application is in response to the show cause notice, enforcement notice relating to the unlawful use of premises being the operation of a commercial self-storage business without a development permit. Noting that the applicant has submitted proposal plans, a traffic engineering statement, a town planning report, and a stormwater management plan in support of the application, and whilst warehouse uses may be contemplated in this location, the associated built form does not achieve a high level of streetscape amenity nor maintain the existing traditional rural and historical character of the township zone, and therefore does not also reflect the requirements of the local townfolk who are quite opposed to its existence within their visually pleasing township. The proposition to include a sunset clause of 10 years is also not appropriate in that it allows the proposed development to continue on for another 10 years while not providing surety to local residents that if the property is sold during this period, the time frame is therefore not transferable. And I would say it's time to close
Thanks,
out.
Councillor Cryer. Anyone like to speak against the resolution? Any further discussion?
Yes.
Chair,
I'm happy to. Sorry, Chair, I'm happy to speak against the resolution in favour of the council recommendation as put up in the agenda.
Yep. All yours, man.
As per the original recommendation by council as outlined. The reason being this has been ongoing for some period of time, and yes, there is a view by some held in the community that it is not an appealing looking development, but it is a preceding development has rights to it. And I am not convinced that the visual aspects actually can be upheld in terms of the outcomes that have been set down under the application for by the applicant, and that the negotiated outcome set out in the original recommendation is fair and reasonable to the applicant.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah. Anyone would like to speak for the resolution? If not, Councillor Cryer, would you like to close the debate, given that the Mayor has expressed a differing view?
Thank you, Chair. I just come back to the overall outcomes of development character and built form of the township zone code, and the proposed development, which is already operating, as you say, doesn't really line up with those things, and so there are actually provisions in the township zone code for visual amenity.
Yep. Thanks, Councillor Cryer. That being the case, close the debate. Those in favour of the resolution? Mayor, you're voting against. Those against, you indicated you would be.
Yes.
Yep. Thanks, Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Yeah. The motion is carried. Division councillors 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for the resolution and the Mayor against. We move on to 11.4, Scenic Rim Planning Scheme, draft amendment. Councillor Sanders.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am delighted to to just discuss item 11.4, the Scenic Rim Planning Scheme draft amendment number 8, response to state government informal information request, starting at page 118, I believe it is. As background, I just wanted to let you know that all councillors have been briefed in depth on the items in this request. However, as background, I wanted to explain what is happening in the motion. The state government request for further information is a normal part of the amendment process. They might want to resolve questions or concerns that they may have, and will ask a local authority to provide responses and refine details, and the state makes sure that the amendments are aligned with their views and policies. The planning scheme amendment is then put on hold, which is where we're at the moment, until the state government's clarified the concerns and council has provided information that they need in order to understand it better. And our staff have spent a significant amount of time to make sure the scheme aligns with all and that all queries are clarified. And once this information is received and the state completes its review, they may suggest any changes or just give notice to adopt the amendment or not to proceed with the amendment. But in this case, the strategic planning team has consulted with relevant internal stakeholders, including the development assessment, engineering and development compliance team, and they've provided feedback on the issues identified. As well, council officers have been liaising with SEQ West Planning Services team from the Department of State Development, Infrastructure and Planning about the items that have been raised, and we've all discussed. So the option 1 that I'm putting today is that 1, council endorse the attached Scenic Rim Planning Scheme 2020 draft amendment number 8 to respond to the state government's informal information request, and 2, council request approval from the Minister for State Development, Infrastructure and Planning to undertake public consultation on the draft amendment package following the state interest review in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act 2016 and Chapter 2, Part 4 of the Minister's Guidelines and Rules.
Thank you, Councillor Sanders. Someone like to second that motion? Second, Councillor Moriarty. Would you like to speak to the resolution, councillor Sanders?
I think we've pretty much clarified it. We've been through it a couple of times and we've made some changes. I must commend the staff for doing an absolutely astounding job on this, and I'm pleased. I'm hoping the state will approve this and get some certainty for us.
Okay, comments, councillor Moriarty?
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to make a comment, if I may, that one of the more significant components of this draft amendment is not what's in the amendment, but rather what is not. I would like to acknowledge and thank the state government for the feedback they have provided to council, in particular in relation to proposed amendments to the removal of temporary use provision for tourist parks involving campsites and update to natural hazard management requirements for tourist accommodation sites. I note that the state's feedback was for council to consider how the proposed amendment will be applied in a reasonable manner and whether clarification or other accepted solutions may be possible without the need for a report from a suitably qualified professional. Council is encouraged to engage in further discussions regarding how this amendment will be applied. I note council's comments in the report that these two items are to be removed from the current amendment package, be explored further and included in a future amendment package. This will allow for further workshopping due to the pending state guidance of eco and agri-tourism, updated bushfire and flood mapping, pending New South East Queensland Regional Plan, community concerns raised via a petition, and the need for a holistic approach to tourist parks rather than ad hoc changes. This matter has been raised in the chamber from everyone from the Deputy Premier, the Planning Minister, the Tourism Minister, our local state member, the State Planner and the Small Business Commissioner. It is quite clear that they have listened, and it now behoves this council to also listen and adopt an approach to agri, eco and nature-based tourism that supports our local operators. This is a great opportunity for our council to engage with local operators and other stakeholders to develop an approach that works for all parties. I look forward to seeing the outcome of this opportunity that has been presented, not only to the people of this region, but to the many thousands of visitors who love to come and experience all that we have to offer each year. Thank you.
Thanks, councillor Moriarty. Anyone like to speak against the resolution? I just want to see, would any of the staff like to comment on this, or significant? Yeah.
To the director, to the coordinator.
Sorry. Through the chair, thank you for the opportunity. It's a timely amendment pack that is before you today. It includes a range of operational amendments to the planning scheme on a number of matters to ensure the continued efficiency of the scheme and in keeping with changes that were proposed in the growth management strategy. So it's a living document, the planning scheme, and it's very exciting today that we can bring this to you to address a range of issues to ensure that our planning for the region is contemporary and effective moving forward.
Thank you very much. Okay. Chair, Director, if you'd like to.
I would like to make a comment. I'd like to acknowledge, and I appreciate the acknowledgement from the councillors. A lot of work's gone into the amendments package by our staff. Danielle, Adrian, Sean, Lucia, quite a number of staff have had involvement with this particular package. I appreciate some omissions, but we're working through those. And there's other packages on the way. So thank you for that acknowledgement of our staff.
Thank you, Director, and yeah, thanks to staff once again for it. There are a lot of work involved here, and there's, as you say, it's an ongoing document and a living document, and we'll no doubt we'll be back 6 months down the track and yeah, and looking at ways of improving it, to what it's all about. Yeah. Okay. No other comments or discussion on this. I'll put the resolution. Or no need to.
Just check the MAD.
Yeah, Mad, did you like to comment at all?
No. Sorry.
No. Okay.
Sorry, Chair.
You're right. Councillor Sanders hasn't really been speakers against it. You don't wish to close?
No, that's fine. Let's put the motion. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. put the motion. Is all those in favour? Mayor?
In favour.
Yeah, carried unanimously. We now move on to 11.5, and I'll ask Councillor Chalk to introduce it.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. Yesterday I introduced report 11.5, which is a request for council support for a submission to change the regional plan designation for land at Worrell View. The report informs council of a request from a proponent that seeks council support for a submission into the Minister of State Development, Infrastructure and Planning to change the designation of land at Worrell View from the regional landscape and rural production area and rural living area. I'll move the following motion, that 1, council provide conditional support for the proposed submission to the Minister for State Development, Infrastructure and Planning to advance investigations for a change of regional plan designation for the subject land at Worrell View to rural living area to facilitate rural residential development, subject to A, comprehensive investigations to demonstrate the need for future rural residential development on the subject land within the amended timeframe of the pending new South East Queensland Regional Plan, following the identification of the timeframes for the new regional plan by the Minister. B, demonstrate consultation with landowners regarding the proposed change to the existing land use designation in the Shaping SEQ South East Queensland Regional Plan of 2023. C, detailed master planning at the time of any future development application. And 2, council write to the proponent and the Minister for State Development, Infrastructure and Planning advising of this decision. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Chalk. We didn't get a seconder for that. Councillor Sanders. Okay, like to add to that, Councillor Chalk?
Yeah, I'll just add in the reported details that this the council has given this in principle support previously in 2013 from the same proponent and the same piece of land. At that time, it wasn't obviously added into the regional plan. So this motion that I moved today is similar to that one. Yes, I'll leave it at that, Mr.
Okay, thanks. Speaker, Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you, Chair. I just concur with the comments that this item or this issue has been raised and brought before council before many years ago. Noting that it is conditional support and it's in council's best interest, I believe, anyway, that we are working with proponents, particularly large landholders, and we are working with them to try and achieve outcomes. So we need to have more housing, open up more land for development, better that we are working with people and supporting people and have a working relationship, in my opinion, to achieve outcomes that we have some control and input over. So I'm supportive of this resolution that we provide conditional support. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Moriarty. Any other speakers? Anyone against the resolution? I'm not against it. There's a lot of good things about this, where it's situated straight out onto the Cunningham Highway and whatever, and the words used, it's basically in principle support, and there's a long way to go on this, but it's I think it's good. It'll be rural residential, and it's from water to whatever. There's plenty of hurdles there, and it will change the look and feel of small place of Worrell View. It's actually just away from Worrell View a bit, but it's there could be as many as 800 blocks of land in there, but and it's only just 10 minutes down to Amberley Corner, where 6,500 people are employed there. So it's there's a lot going for it, and I support the resolution. Director Leo.
Thanks, Chair. Just to note for the councillors, there's a fair bit of work going on behind the scenes. The SEQ regional plan seems to be evolving by the week, and officers have been trying to keep up with that, and involved in a range of discussions with the project control group through the department, where all the SEQ directors of planning and other staff have been involved with ongoing discussions about the evolution of the review of the regional plan, of which proposals such as this are coming forward across the region. So it is timely to consider this.
Thank you, Director. Councillor Sanders.
The only thing I wanted to mention was this did come to us in 2013 at council. I think at the time it wasn't. It was ahead of its time. So I think what the director is saying in that timeliness and the SEQ regional plan being updated, maybe this isn't the right time. It might be the right time now. Who knows?
Yeah. Given it's only probably 15 to 20 minutes down the road to Ripley, where there's 350 square metre blocks, I think there's a lot of people looking for these sort of blocks, which I think they're proposing 3,000 square metres or thereabouts. They evidently did go a bit higher than what they were for a start off, but yeah. Further comments?
Chair, if I may.
You may. Yeah.
To look beyond, to concur with all comments the councillors made today, but also to give consideration for the township of Warrabee, for it to have a future of growth and sustainability is equally important.
Yep. Okay, it'll be interesting to see how that goes in relation to there, but yeah, thank you for your comment, Mayor. Okay, if there's Councillor Chalk, you don't want to add?
No, I concur with the comments as well. Yep. Thank you.
Okay, rightio. I've put the motion to councillors. All those in favour? Mayor?
In favour, thank you.
In favour. Carried unanimously. Thank you very much, councillors. And now we move on to 11.6, Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to introduce item 11.6, the Flood Intelligence Strategy. I'll take the report as read and move the recommendation as it stands that Council adopt the Scenic Rim Regional Council Flood Intelligence Strategy to guide funding and effort to achieve the vision of a practical, effective and economical flood intelligence for the Scenic Rim region.
Thank you very much. Someone like to second that motion? Seconded Councillor Sanders. Would you like to speak to that resolution, Councillor Moriarty?
Thank you, Chair. As the Chair of the Local Disaster Management Group, any improvement in our flood intelligence and any work in this space is greatly appreciated. I would commend the officers involved for the work that they have done in this space and their commitment and dedication to the cause. As it states in the report, that understanding of flooding and flood intelligence, any advancement or improvement, that is a step forward and will help us better prepare for and respond to any flood events in the region. And for this reason, obviously, I support the motion.
Thanks, Councillor Moriarty. Other speakers for this resolution, or for or against?
Just a comment, if I may. It's kind of funny that this place is so dry, but the real serious problems is always with flooding and water. And a lot of people do move out without having a full understanding of roads that get cut off. And so this sort of flood intelligence strategy will really be helpful. But I do always suggest to people that they do their due diligence before they buy a property at the end of a road, because it could be cut off and they may not be able to get back to town for 4 or 5 days.
If from the chair I can correct you, Councillor Sanders, you better add bushfires to that too, I think.
Oh, of course.
Sorry to do that to you. Yeah. Okay, Councillor Cryer.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'd just like to say it's a very mighty report through the Chair. for flood intelligence. And just, I have a question through the chair. So, from further effective collection of the flood intelligence data and the subsequent analysis of this, in relation to the some identified gaps which feature on page 16 of the report, will there be ongoing scope for improvement in these areas by utilising this data as for the ability to quickly and easily identify properties at risk and to quickly forecast potential flood impacts to the road network, and the ability to easily and accurately communicate road network status and full breadth of flood risk information in relation to residents and properties to the community during a flood event. So
That's
going
quick.
forward.
That question's through the CEO, Councillor Cryer, I take it.
Through the CEO.
Sorry.
Sue Murray.
I think so. That's quite a broad question, but I think generally the answer would be yes. So this strategy is probably the inception was nearly 2 years ago, and we're already starting to fill some of those gaps, and hopefully get more reliable at filling it. So yeah, there is a big body of work that comes behind this strategy that really is looking at filling those gaps, and the strategy is meant to be quite a high level kind of document. So if you read through it, a lot of the front is kind of context, and the strategy is really a little bit more simple at the back of it, and it's trying to give some guidance on how we approach these problems, and yeah, how we spend money and time and effort. But yeah, we're always looking at really trying to look at those gaps, those needs, make sure there's a really strong case for spending money, because for a roads budget, it's peanuts, but all money is important, and you can spend quite a bit of money on things that they sound really good until then they end up being not reliable, or they're out of date really quickly, or
just maximising that investment.
Yeah, so it's really about trying to spend the money wisely, focused on actual problems that we have in our disaster area, and also beyond that going, okay, what can we give to the community and some of those external stakeholders? Yeah. So, yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for the answer, Murray. That's well put, mate. Yeah. Councillor Moriarty.
Chair,
Director.
I'd like to just thank you and through you.
Can you turn the microphone off, please?
There we go. I think I've got it. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just to reiterate, I think 2 points. Murray is probably the expert within council around flooding, so credit to you. Yeah, with respect to being the driving force behind this particular body of work. But councillors, you'll see that the intelligence strategy, and as Murray said, sits at a high level, guided by 4 principles. Those 4 principles do include financial and organisational sustainability, and provide us now with a framework that can be used to tap into grant funding, and for council to effectively have a very strong foot where there are infrastructure or other means that need to be undertaken and are not currently budgeted for. We will have a framework to use for the application for grant funding from state or federal agencies in that regard.
Thanks, Director James. Yeah. Councillor Moriarty.
Oh, thank you, Chair. And the Director just preempted. I didn't realise, Murray, you'd snuck into the room while I was otherwise occupied doing my introduction, so I didn't acknowledge you by name initially. But I know you've put a mountain of work into this, and just want to thank you for that and commend the work that you've done, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? If not, I'll put the resolution 11.6. All those in favour? Mayor?
In favour, Chair.
Yeah, carried unanimously. Thank you. Um, 11.7, councillor Chalk,
Yeah, thank you.
Rathdownie, Exman and Sawyer's building.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yesterday, I'm pleased to introduce report 11.7, which is a building report, Rathdownie, Axman and Sawyer building. I'll move the following motion, and then I can speak to it. That one, council consult directly with the Rathdownie Area Development and Historical Association Incorporated and Rathdownie and District Memorial Grounds Association to scope a suitable location and refurbishment of the building for the purpose of applying for community grants funding opportunities. And two, council provide in principle support for the Rathdownie Area Development and Historical Association Incorporated grant applications and investigate the financial capacity of council to co-contribute to support the project.
Thanks, councillor Chalk. Someone like to second that motion? Councillor Sanders, you'd like to speak further to that, your motion, councillor Chalk?
Yes, I would like to, Deputy Mayor. This building is the former Innes Plains School building, which some residents of Rathdownie attended many years ago. The school itself was brought to the showgrounds there in order to save the building by residents of Rathdownie, the Dryan family, and Catherine Dryan is leading the charge to get this building put over to this historical society and renovate it for historical purposes. The RADA, who they're known out there in Rathdownie, do an absolutely fantastic job at protecting the history of that community. They're very proud of their history, and that was evidenced a few weeks ago when me and the Mayor actually attended the opening of the Bullock Wagon, which council funded through a community grant, which was a project. They restored the wagon and sorted there at the Rathdownie Historical Museum. So yes, I am very supportive of this project. They're the type of community group that will get this done and get a good result out of this. So I recommend this motion to all the councillors. Thank you.
Thanks, councillor Chalk, and if Catherine's there behind it, don't stand in the way. I'm sure she'll do it, do a great job on it. Okay, speakers, any other speakers for this resolution? If not, righty, no need for you to close, councillor Chalk, I take it if...
No again to speak against the motion.
We'll put the resolution if that's the case. All those in favour? Mayor?
In favour, Chair.
Okay, carried unanimously. We move, we might do one more and then we might have a break for a bit. Waste Management and Resource Recovery Strategy 11.8. Councillor Cryer.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to introduce item 11.8, Waste Management and Resource Recovery Strategy 4-Year Report Card. I take the report as read. I would like to move the motion that 1, Council endorse the Waste Management and Resource Recovery Strategy Year 4 Report Card, and 2, Council delegate authority to the Chief Executive Officer to make minor grammatical and formatting changes to the Waste Management and Resource Recovery Strategy Year 4 Report Card, if required, after its adoption and prior to publishing on Council's website for public access, noting any such changes will be advised to councillors prior to publishing.
Thanks, councillor Cryer. Someone like to second that resolution? Second, councillor Moriarty. Would you like to speak further to your motion, councillor Cryer?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Okay, so back in 2021, Council resolved to adopt the Waste Management and Resource Recovery Strategy for 2021 to 2026. The ambitious strategy was aimed at supporting the overall vision of Queensland's waste management and resource recovery strategy for 2019, which included reducing the impact of waste on environment, transitioning to a circular economy for waste, and building economic opportunity. Now, in 2025, to provide clarity on the progress and impact of the strategy's implementation, a Year 4 report card has been developed by Waste Services to provide relevant and up-to-date information for realisation of Council's essential focus on an overall vision for waste reduction in our region. The report includes many actions which have been undertaken over the past years, such as expansion of the bin health check program, providing real-time feedback on bin usage, installation of containers for change baskets on bins in public places, public place waste and anti-litter programs, use of Smartcrete CRC recycled materials in roads, circular economy programs, a focus on food and garden organics, community engagement campaigns such as Waste Wise Wednesdays, youth and community education tools including continuation of the Get Grubby program, and key public events such as National Recycling Week campaign and the Garage Sale Trail, which held 81 sales and stalls in the past year, which was significantly up from 29 held in the previous financial year. So it's a great initiative by all. Council is committed to supporting our community to reduce waste. However, it is noticed due to the increased amount of new developments happening in the area, the tonnages of waste disposed to landfill has significantly increased compared to previous years. So can I please ask through the chair or through the CEO a question? So with further implementation of community and school education programs, is an eventual reduction of curbside waste and an increase in the amount of recycling expected to be seen over the next few years?
Thank you, Councillor. Ultimately, councillors, yes, that is the aim. We'll see volumes increase as growth increases, but the percentage of waste that is moved away from landfill and effectively diverted from landfill to other sources is the best metric that we can measure. Industry-wide, we know that source separation is the best way to achieve diversion from landfill. So having people physically separate their waste to a larger degree in their households or before they self-haul to a transfer station or to the landfill is the most effective way of effectively diverting that waste from the landfill itself. The general waste bin composition is fairly stagnant. We can see that there's a high percentage of green waste going into those bins, but the percentage of recycling or recyclables that is currently going into the commingled collection has been fairly stagnant over time. The education piece that I think we need to aim to achieve over the coming years is to really reinforce the importance of source separation, the use of the yellow bin effectively for the target waste types, and how people are self-hauling waste to the landfill, to transfer stations or the landfill, to make sure that those waste streams are going into the appropriate processing stream as far as practicable. So very long way of saying that, in my opinion, the strategy is sound in what it aims to achieve. The education programs need to be looking at targeting source separation to a larger degree. I'd ask if the manager or officer have any further comment.
With the introduction of the organics collections, which we are planning for now, waste going to landfill will further reduce, and as you noted, the waste management and resource recovery strategy is due for its renewal next year. So the upcoming strategy will focus on how we can deal with these upcoming new developments, and what actions can be put in place to ensure waste going to landfill is reduced.
Thank you. And thank you, James.
Thanks, Councillor Crowe. Other questions or comments regarding this report? Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you, Chair. Just further to the information that's already been provided, can we just get probably an indication what will be our greatest challenge moving forward, or what are the biggest challenges we're facing moving forward with regards to our waste management?
Yep, sorry.
Yep, sorry.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Councillors, there's a range of interplayed issues and matters that we need to deal with right now and over the short to medium term. Look, I would say, based on my initial evaluation of the situation here, the immediate management of the Bromelton landfill and how we are planning for its future use is something which is of critical importance at this point in time. I say that not because there are necessarily major issues with the landfill itself. It's operating well. There's a future. We have in planning, very early stages of planning, additional cells that will come on board to extend the life of that particular facility. But as a centralised facility for the region, its proximity to the Bromelton State Development Area, there are a range of opportunities and strategic advantage that can potentially arise from that central facility. So ensuring that the Bromelton landfill itself has a strong operational life and is operating at a very high level will be a key tactical outcome for council in activating other potential strategic opportunities around the Bromelton SDA, as well as ensuring that it provides for the ongoing service for every single ratepayer and resident within the LGA, and achieving the goals that we're hoping to aspire to with respect to diversion from landfill and alternate waste stream uses.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Moriarty. Any other questions, comments? If Mayor, you're right. Nothing you'd like to ask?
I am, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay. Nothing else, unless Councillor Crowe, you're right to...
Yeah, no, nothing else. I just want to say it's a fantastic report card. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Mayor?
In favour, Chair.
Carried unanimously. We'll take a break for 20 minutes or thereabout and be back at 23 minutes, and we'll be back at 11 o'clock. Thank you. Welcome back, councillors and everyone. We'll roll on to the next agenda item, which is Audit and Risk Committee Annual Report, and I'll 11.9, and I'll ask Councillor Hay to introduce it.
Thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to introduce item 11.9, Audit 2025. This report was presented to the Audit and Risk Committee meetings in June and August 2025 for discussion and feedback, and the committee agreed on the content, which is before you today. The annual report is contained in this agenda item and commences at page 223 of the agenda for this meeting. So I'd like to go straight to the motion, and then I'll speak to the motion. The motion is that Council note the Audit and Risk Committee Annual Report for 2024 to 2025.
Thank you, Councillor Hay. Someone like to second that? Councillor Sanders, the other member of the Audit Committee. Councillor Hay, if you'd like to expand on your
Thank you,
resolution.
Chair. The Audit and Risk Committee members are an independent chair, an independent member, 2 councillors and 1 proxy council member who alternate. If one councillor is not able to attend, then the proxy attends in lieu. The annual report includes additional details on 4 areas of focus for the Audit and Risk Committee within its responsibilities, and these were briefly governance and risk management with attention to reviews of key risk registers, updates of the standing orders, new procedures for key governance functions, and commencing work to address legislative changes for privacy compliance. The second one was external audit oversight throughout the year, including reviews of the audit plans and reports, discussion of key audit findings and scrutiny of the financial statements. Third was implementation of agreed audit actions, which involve monitoring and challenge to management on the progress in addressing audit actions. Although there was some improvement in progress, there remains a concerning level of residual risk, which we're trying to address. Additional presentations were included in the last meeting to increase the focus and scrutiny on this aspect. And the final additional item was internal audit, which had a challenging year with disruptions and unplanned demands on the time of our 1 internal auditor. So, team of 1, thank you. 3 reports were presented, 2 were finalised but not yet presented, and the Audit and Risk Committee provided feedback on the reports and more generally on the approach and operation of the function. So each year the Audit and Risk Committee puts forward a plan of action or attack, if you like, and schedules things according to priority and allocates time frames to these items. And unfortunately, when abnormal items come up as a matter of urgency, the table goes a little awry and we have to reschedule and everything gets a little bit out of whack. So we've kept that reasonably under control this year, thanks to Scott's diligent efforts, but you can never tell from one week to the next when some additional internal audit requirement will pop its head up and have to be dealt with urgently. So I think overall the Audit and Risk Committee's done a commendable job, and I think it's best summed up by the independent chair's comment at the end of the report, and he says, "I am proud of the work performed by the Audit and Risk Committee during 2024-2025 and look forward to continued contributions in the year ahead. I commend this annual report to the Audit and Risk Committee of the Audit and Risk Committee to Council." Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Hay. Any other questions, as Councillor Sanders, you'd like to add to that, given you're on the committee too?
Oh, that's a nice thing to ask. Thank you. Yeah, I think the Audit and Risk Committee is not only identifying risks. We want to know how to do things better. We want to do things better all the time. We want to be a learning organisation. So if we do something not as well as we could have, we do better in the future. That's the only way forward. I think our committee's doing a great job. I think commendation to Stephen Coates and Melissa, who are always fighting the good fight. It's not an easy committee to be on. I think there's always improvements to be made, and hopefully hopefully we will see improvements as we go.
Thanks, Councillor Sanders. Any other comments or Councillor Chalk?
Yeah, no, I agree with everything that's been said so far. I'm only the proxy and I've attended a couple of meetings, and there's been some good thank yous which are deserved, and probably also acknowledgement to the councillors, Hay and Sanders, who sit on there and have to do the extra reading and participate in that. They do a good job as well, so thank you.
Thank you.
I'd just like to make one extra comment if I could. I think when people hear the title Audit and Risk Committee, the immediate thought is the finances, and I think that's where people's understanding sort of stops. But it's not just the finances. I'll just run through very quickly what we cover under Audit and Risk, and we've got governance, fraud, corruption and misconduct, strategic risks, external audit, financial management, quarterly budget review, internal audit update, internal audit reports, continuous assurance updates, implementation of audit reports, an HR update and a CEO update. So it's a fairly comprehensive package that we have to get through, and it's, as I said, not strictly limited to finance.
CEO, would you like to comment at all?
Through Mr. Mayor, Acting Mayor, the Audit and Risk Committee is the most important committee in council. It has the independent members. Stephen and Mel have done a really good job, and my commendations to Scott as well. So I think having a good, it was not so long ago, if I remember correctly, it was optional to have audit and risk management committees, and the state government progressively brought them into every municipality or every council, I think, except some of the far north ones. So from my perspective, yeah, the Audit and Risk Management Committee works really well and is a valued part of the organisation.
Thanks. Thanks, CEO. Okay, no other comments from councillors, questions? I'll put the motion, all those, unless you'd like to, nothing else to add, Councillor Hay? Yeah. If not, we'll put the motion. Those in favour? Mayor?
In favour.
Thank you. Carried unanimously. Okay, we move on to 11.10, unaudited monthly financial report for September 25. Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to introduce item 11.10, unaudited monthly financial report for September 2025. I'll take the report as read and move the recommendation as presented. The council received the unaudited monthly financial report for September 2025.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Moriarty. Someone like to second that? Councillor Chalk, you'd like to speak further to it, Councillor Moriarty?
Thank you, Chair. No real comments. Everyone's had the opportunity to have a look through and read it. I just note in the executive summary some few points about our net operating surplus and operating revenue, operating expenditure and so on and so forth. I thought given there's some fairly significant variations from the budgeted estimates, it might be worth just working through those significant items if either the director or the officer is happy to just discuss some of those and the reasons behind them. Thank you.
Through you, CEO.
Thank you, Councillor Moriarty. I'll ask Andrew to talk to the detail and then I'll add if there's anything else after that. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.
Yes, thank you very much, through the Chair. Yes, there are a couple of variances worth reporting on in the report. I'll start out by mentioning that the carry forward budget view has not yet been adopted and incorporated into the budgets. So some of the variances, especially in the capital expenditure and capital revenue, will be purely because of this. That carry forward review is expected to go to the November round of meetings, and hopefully will be incorporated into the budgets thereafter. Looking at the year-to-date variances so far to the end of September, the first one of note is to do with operating revenue, is to do with the operating grants, of which it's a variance of about $400,000. It's largely due to timing differences to the Commonwealth Financial Assistance Grant. The prepayment at the end of last year, remember, was only 50%. We budgeted for about 80% to 85% from memory. And that's thrown our timing out as to when to expect the payments this financial year. So I don't expect any variance to the overall annual budget for that financial assistance grant, assuming that they're going to pay 50% again at the end of this year, which we don't know until it happens. But for the time being, we can just leave that budget should resolve itself by year end. I didn't put a comment in the report, but one other component of operating revenue that's worth mentioning is fees and charges. That's fallen behind a little bit year to date. It's probably too early to tell if that's going to continue throughout the rest of the year and be under budget by the end of the year, or whether it's going to recover. But it's just something that we should try and monitor, I guess, over the coming months. On the expenditure side, costs are tracking about $300,000 under budget. This is largely due to staff vacancies to start with under employee expenses. However, it's not all the employee expenses isn't all to do with staff vacancies. We haven't processed the enterprise bargaining increase as yet. So once that is processed, there will be a big jump in whatever month that ends up being processed in to get it closer to budget. But because of those vacancies, we do expect it still to be under budget overall. Depreciation expenses under budget so far, largely because the revaluations for this financial year haven't been processed yet, and capitalisations are still yet to be processed. For the time being, we expect that to end up where the annual budgeted target is, with no variance there. On the other side, materials and services, there was an overspend in materials and services due to the processing of some late disaster recovery costs to do with Canada Disaster Operations and Emergency Works after Cyclone Alfred. All of those costs are recoverable by QRA, and a budget adjustment will be put through for those in the September budget review. In terms of capital, both expenditure and revenue are above budget. As I mentioned before, that's due to the carry forwards not being processed. And finally, there's a new cash flow statement has been included this month. I don't know if anybody's noticed that, but on page 5 of 10 in the report, we've added another statement to hopefully give more transparency around cash flow movements. Any questions?
Thanks, Andrew. Any questions to Andrew or Jason or?
Just for Andrew. So the cash flow, so that's an assistance for you guys as well to just check where you are.
Yes, yes.
I might answer that one if I can, Councillor Sanders. So essentially the three important statements for the council to have an awareness of are the operating position, so what's happening through the operating budget, the statement of financial position on the balance sheet, so the assets and liabilities of the organisation. And it's still important to see the three-way view through the cash flow statement as to where the money's coming and going through the organisation. It gives us an appreciation for where there might be timing shortfalls, but it also allows us to manage those cash holdings for the organisation in a much more effective manner, and it gives the council oversight of the transparency of those cash flows throughout the financial year. So that's why I've asked for that report to be added into the monthly shell of statements that the council sees. Thank you.
Okay, further questions? Councillor Hay.
Thank you, Chair. Could we bring up page 251 on the screen, please? Fees and charges.
Yep.
Development assessment, plumbing, and building certification. Each of those, and tip fees even, we're down on our anticipated revenue. Is there a reason for that? I think I know the answer, but is there a reason why we're collecting less in the way of certification fees and assessment fees?
Yes, through the chair. At the moment, just purely due to lower activity at the moment. And as I mentioned earlier, it's yet to see whether that's going to continue over the next 9 months as well, for there to be an annual impact, or whether activity will pick back up again.
Through Mr. Mayor. the other answer, which I think you were going to say, is the lack of staff, and that is the issue, especially in the plumbing area, if I remember correctly. We're down 2 to 3. We're also likely to be down a few more as people reach retirement. So that's going to occur. The other one is you do get a push along by some of the developers at certain times of the year. This is usually a flat time. Then they sort of rise up again once the Christmas holidays are finished, and then they have a mad rush for the end of June. So that's realistically where we are in relation to trying to collect some of those fees and charges.
Thank you.
No question.
Chair, I might just add to that. It's also not really linear, Councillor Hay. So we take it and divide it by 12 and assume that the activity will be constant, and it's not. We'll try and refine that over time. And as the CEO mentioned, there are cycles, particularly around some of the development side of things. So we'll try and manage how we forecast that to reflect some of those cycles a bit better. But maybe through the half year will be a better estimate for us to give you a response on that. Thank you.
And dare I say it, Jason, maybe what we were compared to last year too, just a reminder from, budget's one thing, but it's, where's our trend? No other questions? That's the case. Councillor Moriarty, would you like to add anything?
Thank you, Chair. Nothing much to add other than just to thank and acknowledge the work that the Director and the staff are doing in this space to try and provide councillors with more timely and meaningful information in the financial reports. It's much appreciated, and looking forward to, having that information that's just more timely and more transparent, a little bit easier to track. Be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. Being the case, we'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Mayor?
In favour, Chair.
Okay, carried unanimously. We move on to 11.11, unaudited monthly finance report for June 25, and audited financial statements for the year ended 30th of June 25. Councillor Sanders.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item 11.11, authorised. That'll be interesting. Let me try again. Unaudited monthly financial report for June 2025, final, and audited financial statements for the year ended 30th of June 2025. I'll put the motion, one, that Council receive the unaudited monthly financial reports June 2025 final for the financial year 2024-2025, and two, Council receive the audited financial statements for the year ended 30th of June 2025.
Someone like to second that, please? Councillor Cryer. Councillor Sanders would got something to add?
Only a little thing, and then I probably get the staff to make a comment. The management certificate for the year ended 30th of June 2025 is signed by the Mayor and the CEO on the 9th of October 2025. Page 301 and the Queensland Auditor's Office have provided an independent auditor's report starting on page 302. The ratios relating to financial sustainability are on pages 305, 309, 310.
Thank you. Questions to this report from anyone?
I was just going to let the Director talk on this, if that's okay. I do have some notes if you would like me to read them out.
Well, maybe you can use that as sum up.
I'm happy to talk if the councillors don't have direct questions, and then I'll just ask Andrew to clarify. First and foremost, this is receiving the annual financial statements for the period 30 June 2025. They are the audited statements and they will form part of the annual report as it's received from Council, but we have an obligation to present that information. It's also been custom and practice here to present a final version of the end of financial year monthly report for June to give Council a clear indication of particularly changes between when budget gets adopted and the annual financial statements change. There are some significant changes in that and in the operating position of Council, and I might ask the officer Andrew to talk to that in some level of detail. Part of it is a timing issue in terms of how things are recognised from an accounting purpose, but for all intents and purposes it still does record a deficit position, and that's something that we'll need to manage as we work through budget reviews this year, but also our practices as we set in motion budget for 26-27 and the forward years. Andrew, if I could just ask you to talk to the movements to that monthly report and the final position where we landed for the June 2025 report, please.
Yes, certainly, thank you. Before I do get into that, just one small correction to make, if I could please, just on the executive summary of the report. If you just bring that page up. Yeah, just want to change one word, but that one word has a significant meaning though. Thank you very much, Sharon. Just in the the second point under net operating surplus / deficit, I've got operating expenditure 2.753 million lower than budget expectations. That should read higher than budgeted expectations. I had that correct further down in the document, but unfortunately I missed that one there. And I'll get that corrected for the final version that we publish. Just moving on now then. So the final monthly financial report for June now incorporates all year-end accruals and adjustments. And it reports an operating deficit of 4.5 million. So that's an operating deficit, which is 9.3 million below budget expectations. There were some major unexpected transactions that impacted our operating result. A couple of them were the financial assistance grant and how we received only a 50% prepayment rather than the 80% prepayment. There's differences in the timing of receipts to do with the counter disaster operations and emergency works. So all the counter disaster operations and emergency works that we expended last year, we haven't received any of the funding for that last year, unfortunately. So that's had a negative impact on the operating deficit. And we will receive that funding this financial year, however. It just unfortunately couldn't be recorded back in last year. And the other major transaction was lower profits from the associate urban utilities. They made some major adjustments to their the valuation of their property, plant and equipment, and unfortunately that flows through to our operating position. Out of those major adjustments, if I took out the counter disaster operations and emergency works expenditure, or the net impact of those activities, the operating deficit would have only been 0.3 million. And I took those ones out because they're not really things that we budget for and outside of our control. So it still would have been operating deficit of 300,000. However, coming to that, there are still those other major variances being the financial assistance grant and the urban utilities. Although outside of our control, they are things that council needs to manage their way through, I guess, and impact on our position. Capital expenditure was $27 million below budget due at the end of the financial year, just due to project timing. There's an additional $74 million which was forecast in the annual budget, which was forecast to be spent beyond 30 June. So those two figures together make 101 million in capital expenditure that's available to be carried forward, and you'll hear more about that in the September budget review. On the capital revenue side, there was 18.4 million below budget, and a lot of that would be included in the carry forward budget review as well. Cash remained $1 million above expectations, and there's a myriad of variances that result in that $1 million, but yeah, it was very close to what our budget expectations were.
Thanks, Andrew.
Any questions?
Any other questions?
Just a comment that forecasting must be insane, trying to balance all of these incomings and outgoings. It must be just a huge, huge job. So I don't know how you do it, and I commend you.
Well, it's your best guess, isn't it? Yeah, and worked on historical and it's never going to get it perfect. But, if not, Councillor Sanders, would you?
Nothing further from me, Mr.
Nothing.
Chair.
Okay, if there's no more questions, we will put the resolution. All those in favour? Yep.
In favour, Chair.
Thanks, carried unanimously. Okay, we move on to 11.12, annual report. Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to introduce item 11.12, the late item annual report 2024-25. I'll take the report as read. I'll move the motion or make the recommendation as it stands that one, council adopt the Scenic Rim Regional Council annual report 24 to 2025. Two, council note the general purpose financial statements for the year ended 30th of June 2025. And three, council delegate to the Chief Executive Officer the power to make minor grammatical and formatting changes to the Scenic Rim Regional Council Annual Report 2024 to 2025 if required after its adoption by council and prior to publishing the document for public access.
Thanks, Councillor Moriarty. Someone like to second that resolution? Seconded Councillor Sanders, was it first? Yeah. I thought you were shaking your hand there.
Either way is
yeah,
fine.
Councillor Sanders, yeah. Okay, like to speak to that, Councillor Moriarty?
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to acknowledge the work that's gone into the report. Given that it's a late item, I haven't spent a great deal of time going through the report, but it certainly looks like an impressive document and there is quite a bit of information in there, and I just want to thank those responsible for pulling it together, noting that it's the intended purpose is to provide a realistic overview of council operation for the year, and I think it's the last one under the last corporate plan. I think the next annual report we will be working under the new corporate plan that we've adopted, is my understanding.
Yeah, thanks for that. Further comments or questions? Yeah, it is our report card and where we've been, or what we've done and how we've got on for the year. So it's yeah. Sorry, Councillor Cryer. I was just treading water there for a minute. Councillor Cryer, yeah.
Oh, no,
Yeah, before someone else would like to speak.
Thank
Councillor
you.
Cryer,
Thank you.
if you'd like to speak.
I just want to acknowledge that it is it's a great report. I read through it, and through the chair, through the CEO. I'm not sure which one. I just want to acknowledge the very beautiful photo of the nearly completed Bay Desert Town Centre project on page 129 of the report. And with that, I just had a query. Will the recently won the IPWEA, Institute of Public Works Engineering Australasia Award and the Road Safety Award and Project of the Year for all of Queensland and Northern Territory councils for this project, will that be included in the next year's annual report, or we slipped that one in?
Yes, we can certainly include that in next year's annual report. We've already started to collate some of the information for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, because they're great awards. And well done to everyone who achieved those.
Given the award was only given out in this financial year, it's even though most of the work certainly was done in previous financial years. Further questions?
Can I just make another comment, Chair, please?
Yeah.
on page 6 of the annual report, it refers to the relaxed living and rural lifestyle, noting that most of the other metrics seem to be headed in the right direction. This one's headed in the right direction, noting that the growth in the region is supported by a clear and evidence-based planning vision, doesn't get a tick, and that mobile and data services connectivity across the region is enhanced, doesn't get a tick. And I'm just wondering if any of the officers can make a comment or just give any advice about what we might be doing to address those concerns.
Through the CEO.
Through you.
I'd have to take that on notice unless one of the directors is able to answer that question.
Through you, Mr. Chair. We routinely liaise with and provide any information back to our key telecommunication partners for things like communications black spot funding and any increases to the mobile network that may need to occur. That also occurs through upgrades of critical infrastructure, so where we're providing any enabling infrastructure, say to new development areas or upgrades to connect growth fronts. That connectivity is, we engage with the telecoms providers to prompt any upgrades of technology in that respect. With respect to other infrastructure, things like road safety, etc., those metrics that lead to better livability and increases in either safety or the livable nature of the rural and regional landscape are pretty consistently fed back either through council with routine meetings with TMR. And internally for integration into any infrastructure plans arising from development applications. I can't comment on the component about the metrics for relaxed living and rural lifestyle, however, so I'll need to defer that question to other colleagues or staff.
Yep. Okay. Thanks, John.
I just, if I may, Chair, just given that those particular items which are up on the screen, you know, obviously the relaxed and living and rural lifestyle is very important to everyone in the region. Perhaps we could make some time to raise that or have a briefing and a strategy briefing meeting in the future just to discuss those particular items. Might be a way to progress from here. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Councillor Moriarty. Further questions? If not, I think we'll put the resolution. Those in favour of adopting the annual report for this last financial year? Mayor?
In favour.
Thank you. Carried unanimously. And the last item on open is Tambourine Mountain Sports Association, 11.13, Councillor Hay.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to introduce late item 11.13, Tambourine Mountain Sports Association request for funding. For anyone following along at home, this is on the late agenda items that have been added. It's not on the main agenda if you're having trouble finding it. I'll just introduce the item and then I'll move to the motion. By way of background, the Long Road Sports Facility is currently managed by Tambourine Mountain Sports Association Limited under a lease agreement with Council. Council received correspondence from the Sports Association on the 1st of October 2025 requesting a meeting with Council to discuss particular matters outlined within the correspondence. A subsequent meeting was held at Council on the 16th of October 2025 between the Sports Association and Council representatives. A matter of focus presented by the Sports Association was operational costs associated with the operation of the Long Road Sports Facility and a request for short-term funding, long-term partnership agreement / assistance was presented by TMSA for Council's consideration. So I'll move straight to the motion, which will then be up for further discussion. The motion is 1. Council does not approve the request for financial assistance by Tamborine Mountain Sports Association Limited towards immediate and future operating costs relating to Long Road Sports Facility under the current lease agreement. 2. Council does not fund any expenses incurred by the current lessee or that the current lessee is obliged to pay in accordance with the current lease agreement. 3. Council enter into immediate discussions with the Tamborine Mountain Sports Association Limited regarding mutual termination of the lease agreement in accordance with the lease terms. 4. Council advise the community in due course of any future actions for the ongoing management and maintenance of the Long Road Sporting Facility. And 5. Council communicate relevant parts of this resolution in writing to the Tamborine Mountain Sports Association Limited.
Thank you, Councillor Hay. Someone like to second that? Second, Councillor Moriarty. Would you like to add to it, Councillor Hay?
Yes, thank you. Tamborine Mountain Sports Association have presented Council with correspondence identifying a budget shortfall of $362,581 for various maintenance and capital expenses relating to the Long Road Sports Facility. In the meeting held between the Sports Association and Council on the 16th of October 2025, the Sports Association requested financial assistance to the value of the identified budget shortfall being $362,581, which was comprised of $31,753 reimbursement of expenses and $330,828 for future capital replacement and ongoing maintenance and operating costs, and sought agreement for Council for an ongoing shared financial responsibility for maintenance and operating costs. If we go to page 176 of the late agenda item, the conditions and current lease agreement are stipulated there and what the responsibilities of the lessee are. And a review of Council's records indicate inconsistent provision of annual financial records by the Sports Association since the inception of the lease. More recently, 2 requests were issued by Council between September 2024 and November 2024 to the Sports Association requesting audited financial information and other relevant information required under the lease agreement, and Council was provided with financial statements for 2022, 2023 and 2024 financial years in October 2025. Those statements were unsigned. A review of Council's operational capital budget allocations and expenditure for the Long Road Sports Facility since 2020 to 2021 financial year indicates an expenditure total of $410,146.49 for varying purposes including building and grounds maintenance and design work, excluding carryover for lighting project. Capital budget allocations for 2025 to 2026 financial year includes $358,787, including a carryover amount for a lighting upgrade and $500,000 for wastewater infrastructure upgrade. Implementation of ongoing annual financial contributions to the Sports Association is inconsistent with the current lease conditions for this facility and is inequitable in relation to similar owned or controlled sports and recreation facilities across the Scenic Rim region. Tamborine Mountain Sports Association is one of 3 Tier 1 sports facilities across the Scenic Rim. So what we do for one, we would be obliged to do for all 3. I do have a couple of questions, or if you'd like to hand over to someone else first. Thank you.
Thank you for that comprehensive review of the situation, Councillor Hay. Yes, we will have no doubt other questions as well. And I'll let you catch your breath for a moment and ask for other questions from other councillors or comments.
I'll just make a comment. Thank you, Chair, if that's okay. It's important to note that this is a first step in a process. Councillor, the resolution may read as though the lease is going to be terminated forthwith or something like that. That is not the case. It's the wording in the lease is that it is a mutual termination, so that's why it's in the motion that it would need to be agreed to by both parties. But it is a first step, and I think the trendy term used is it's possibly the first step in resetting the relationship between council and TMSA and or the ongoing future use of the Long Road Sports Facility. But it is important that the issues that have been raised are addressed in the public interest. I think it's in everyone's best interest that we work together to resolve the matter.
Thank you, Councillor Moriarty. Any other questions? Okay, Councillor Hay, there are a couple of questions from you.
Thank you, Chair. One of the issues raised by Tambury Mountain Sports Association was that during the discussions that were held recently and in suggestions that were put forward, they actually were seeking a financial request in three parts: past reimbursement of expenses already paid, current critical expenses, and future maintenance budget provision. So can I, through the Chair to the Director, ask why we've addressed this as one lump sum, please?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Councillors, ultimately the request that came in via the letter from the TMSA dated 30th of September 2025 was seeking a solidified amount of $362,581. It is correct that that was apportioned into three different limbs. The first limb being reimbursement of capital expenditure that was already spent for a value of $31,753. The second being future capital replacement to the value of $50,700. And the final being a request for ongoing maintenance and operations, which was to the value of $280,128. Councillors, to save this being a report of 100 plus pages with multiple pieces of analysis and alternate recommendations, there is effectively two recommendations for your consideration. There is an alternate range of options that Council could undertake here, including apportionment of all or a part of that requested funding, the $362,581. However, given the circumstances and given the overall request from the TMSA, the options have been presented to you at the two ends of that pendulum swing, being the full funding or the non-funding of that request. The other part which is unclear and was discussed at the meeting, is referenced in the report, is the notion of the partnership agreement. There's been no further detail provided around what that may look like. As Councillor Moriarty has alluded to, this may be a topic of future discussion with the Sports Association in terms of where we enter into. If Council is of the appetite to push to enter into discussions for mutual termination, there are very specific terms under the lease for a 3-month notice period otherwise, or a mutual termination agreement. Then there would be the option to look at what future partnership agreements could potentially look like. We were very clear in that meeting. I was very clear in the meeting with the TMSA that this is unbudgeted at this point, and is not budgeted in terms of Council having an allocation across all of our sporting facilities, let alone an apportionment to one sporting facility. So that's another element for consideration. If the partnership agreement was structured such that it offered Council the ability to look at non-monetary contributions, for example, that could be a completely separate issue. So that's another element as to why I've not presented a range of options that may cover off on every single one of those different scenarios in the report, because there is just too much unknown to look at how those scenarios may effectively play out, what the public benefit is, what the financial implications may be, etc., etc. Notwithstanding, it is Council's prerogative as to whether you wish to explore those options.
Thanks, James.
Thank you.
Is there another question, Councillor Hay?
Through you,
Yep.
Mr. Mayor. Director, can you also talk about the ex gratia payments and the QAO, please?
And I may also ask my peer director to make comment on this. Thank you, Mr. CEO, and that is a really relevant point, councillors. There's very clear guidance on ex gratia payments from the Audit Office, and essentially the payment for expenses already occurred that would not normally or not explicitly be outlined through a legal agreement would qualify as an ex gratia payment. And there is specific requirements and specific thresholds and boundaries for making ex gratia payments from a public authority. I'll ask my colleague, who will probably be able to articulate this to a better degree than I can to comment.
Thank you, James. Councillors, in the Local Government Report to Parliament 2024, there was a piece called out by the Queensland Audit Office in relation to ex gratia payments being made, and a piece of work that's flowed from that's also in our audit report as it comes forward for the period ending 2025 is that Council consider a policy. So at the moment we actually don't have a policy in relation to ex gratia payments. We have drafted a version of that for consideration through the Audit Committee, but it doesn't provide any current guidance to Council in relation to this. And what it does suggest is there are a range of risks to Council should it make an ex gratia payment, and the transparency and accountability associated with those payments would be better off accorded with a policy position from Council that doesn't exist at the moment. So hopefully that's clear in response to what the other director said.
Yeah. Thank you, directors. Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions? Mayor, did you have anything on this one?
Just if we could just clarify from Councillor Hay, I believe there was a late email that councillors have not been able to disseminate that information and cannot be addressed, but I think there was a request we'll have that tabled. But Councillor Hay, can you just very quickly address that point?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I did receive an email at 2:05 a.m. this morning, which is the reason why I haven't provided a response, because we've all been in attendance at the business breakfast in the chamber since a very early hour. So given the late notification from the Sports Association, that has not been tabled, and nor does it form part of the report put to Council today.
However, we do have a copy. Thank you.
That has been circulated to all directors and the CEO and all councillors. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Councillor Hay. No other questions. We'll nothing else you'd like to add, Councillor Hay? Thank you. We'll put the motion. All those in favour? Mayor?
In favour.
In favour. Carried unanimously. Okay, that brings us to a pause here. I'd like to have a motion from someone that we move into confidential. Yeah.
Yeah, where is it?
So it starts at the top there.
Yeah. Okay, someone like to move that? Kerry, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So it starts at that.
Yes.
Okay. That in accordance with Council standing orders for Council meetings policy and the provisions of Section 254J Section 3 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council closed the meeting to public to discuss confidential items as follows. 12.1, request for legal assistance, close Section 254J3I. Item 12.2, Chief Executive Officer Performance Appraisal, appointment of panel, closed Section 254J Section 3B. Item 12.3, Planning Appeal Update, Roth versus Scenic Rim Regional Council, closed section 254J3E. Item 12.4, Disposal of Surplus Council-Owned Property, Lupton Road, Beaudesert, closed section 254J, section 3G. Item 12.5, consideration for the purchase of land for future strategic purposes, closed section 254J3H, as discussions will be held about a request for legal assistance and planning matters.
Someone like to second that? Councillor Chalk, any discussion? Any discussion?
Chair, I need to declare that I have a prescribed conflict of interest in item 12.1, request for legal assistance, given that I'm the applicant. So, and unless anybody wants to ask any questions, I'm quite happy to leave and come back when you go on to the next next item. Yep.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Hay.
And can I add that the OIA complaint for me stalking was dismissed on Monday? Thank you.
Duly noted, Councillor Hay. Could go down that track, but I won't. All those in favour that we go into confidential? Mayor?
In favour.
Thank you.
In favour.
Yep, thanks, Tom. We'll close the meeting. welcome.
Motion to come back.
Yeah. Motion to come back into open session. Would someone like to move? Move councillor Sanders, seconded councillor Chalk. Any discussion? If not, we'll go there. Back to open. And councillor Hay, you've indicated you've got a conflict in 12.1 and you're leaving the room while we discuss that. Thank you very much. And we'll call you in when we've cleared this. Okay, Councillor, line it up, Councillor Cryer. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'd like to introduce item 12.1, request for legal assistance, close section 254J3I. I'll move straight to the motion that in accordance with Council's legal assistance policy and guideline, Council resolved to grant legal assistance to the applicant councillor.
Thanks, Councillor Cryer. Seconded, Councillor Sanders. Is there any discussion on that? If not, Mayor, you're with us.
Yes, Chair.
Yep. Thank you. Nothing to add. If there's no more discussion, I'll put that resolution. Those in favour of that? Mayor?
In favour.
In favour, thank you. Carried unanimously by those in the room at the time. And I welcome Councillor Hay back into the room. And 12.2, Chief Executive Officer Performance Appraisal, Councillor Chalk.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Yes, I'll introduce report 12.2, Chief Executive Officer Performance Appraisal, appointment of a panel which was closed under section 254J3B. The motion that I'll move is that Council appoint the Chief Executive Officer Performance Review Panel for a period covering 1st of May 2025 to 30th of June 2026, comprising of all councillors and an independent person.
Seconded, Councillor Sanders. Any discussion on that? If there's no discussion, we'll vote on that. All those in favour?
In favour.
Thank you, Mayor. And Planning Appeal, Roth versus Scenic Rim Regional Council. Councillor Chalk once again.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. So I'll introduce the report 12.3, which is a planning appeal update, Roth versus Scenic Rim Regional Council, which was closed under section 254J3E. The motion that I'll move is that pursuant to section 257 of the Local Government Act 2009, Queensland, Council will delegate to the Chief Executive Officer the power to take all steps necessary to resolve Council's interest in the appeal of MCU 24/043, Roth and another versus Scenic Rim Regional Council appeal in the Planning and Environment Court, P&E number 2311 of 2025, 36 Bartle Road and 62 Bartle Road, Lot 1 RP 178303 and Lot 23 RP 40985 with consideration to legal advice.
Thanks, Councillor Chalk. Someone like to second that? Second, Councillor Moriarty. Is there any discussion? If not, we'll put the to the vote. All those in favour?
In favour.
Yeah, in favour. Thanks. Councillor Hay is abstaining. Yeah, which comes as a negative. Thank you. 12.4, disposal of surplus land, Councillor Sanders.
Item 12.4, disposal of surplus council-owned property, Lupton Road, Beaudesert. The motion is that 1, council dispose of by way of sale its combined freehold land holding of 31.521 hectares that is situated at Lupton Road, Beaudesert, in accordance with the provisions of Section 227 of the Local Government Regulation 2012. 2, Council resolve that if a sale is not initially secured for the land under the provisions of Section 227 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, then the exception under Section 2361A of the Local Government Regulation 2012 applies to the proposed disposal of the landholding. And 3, Council delegate authority to the Chief Executive Officer in accordance with Section 2571 of the Local Government Act 2009 to finalise and execute a sale agreement in accordance with the recommendations 1 and 2 above and on terms to the satisfaction of the Chief Executive Officer.
Thanks, Councillor Sanders. Someone like to second that motion? Second, Councillor Chalk. Any discussion? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Mayor?
In favour.
In favour, thank you. And finally, 12.5, consideration of purchase of land. Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to introduce item 12.5, consideration for the purchase of land for future strategic purposes, closed section 254J3H. And I'll move the motion as presented that 1, Council authorise the commencement of negotiations to acquire the parcels of land as provided for in the report for future strategic purposes. 2, Council delegate authority to the Chief Executive Officer in accordance with section 2571 of the Local Government Act 2009 to settle negotiations and finalise acquisition of the parcels of land as provided for in the report. The delegation will end once the negotiations have been finalised. And 3, Council consider a future budget review, the most appropriate source of funding. Council consider at a future budget review the most appropriate source of funding for the purchase, noting that it may be in the forward financial years.
Someone like to second that? Councillor Sanders. Any discussion? No. Sorry, Councillor Cryer. No discussion at all. I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Mayor?
In favour.
Thank you. That brings a close to our meeting. Thank you for all who attended and participation. Thank you to staff all involved in different ways there for the day in the morning. And I'll close the meeting and wish you farewell.